Hello everybody and welcome to episode 60 of Twitch Tales New Journeys. Where did we leave off in episode 59? Well, we've left at a bit of a crossroads as to what to do, haven't we? In episode 59 we began in the mayor's office, having just heard from Nira, Vala's assistant, that she may have had something to do with that necromancer old chap in the woods. Having learnt from them that there's potential for reincarnation or resurrection from the necromancer, and perhaps we can save more than just Vala, we went to the PEA to see how everyone is. We played the panpipes for a bunch of people who were a little upset and mourning, particularly the loss of Mark. And we weren't actually garbage at the panpipes for once. It was an average roll. I think we got like a 12 or something. We slept at Briar's place to give her some company at this hard time for her, and then the next day we went at dawn on the morning of Apis' birthday, no less. We went to the resurrection ritual for Vala. We stood around a circle of stones, and Polython, the head druid of the Penquempur and Amglesheth guild, had set out this reincarnate ritual using tinctures and salves and herbs and spices and incense and a whole bunch of rare materials that cost like 1,000 gold pieces. But hey, it's expensive to give somebody an entirely new body. And give somebody a body it did. Her body was laid in the center, Vala, and then it was wrapped in this swirling cocoon of vegetation that fell away, and rolling randomly, I gave her the new body of pretty much what she already had, a relatively short human woman. She came to consciousness, having succeeded to return. As part of the ritual, Apis offered up one of their vials of dragon blood, which counted as a success, and persuaded her soul to return to her body, her new body. And when she came to, she was a little groggy. Her head has now got to remake all of those synapses and neural pathways for herself. She's got to get used to being in this new body. So we went to the leatherworker of town and thanked him for making armour for our friend Mel. We got her armour slightly adjusted because she told us how it's a little bit uncomfortable in certain areas. He was more than happy to do so. We met him. His name's Owen. He's a lovely fella. We decided to hand over to Owen, who is a tanner and a leatherworker. We handed over the dragon scales that we had salvaged, harvested from Lucifreak's body. And he, having never worked with dragon scales before, was excited to do so, and so he gave us a decent discount and said that he would make them and tan them into scale braces for us at the cost of just 15 gold. We paid 8 now, and we're going to pay 7 upon completion. We went hunting after that for Mark's funeral, acquired a badger, a deer, and some various fungus, some mushrooms and things. We skinned one of them, or started to skin one of them, before realising that it was we were losing the light and we needed to go speak with Vala as soon as we can, because if Mark's funeral comes and goes and Mark gets buried, it's going to be too late to get him resurrected, of course. We went to find Vala in the hospital of Fondurg, and she was still quite discombobulated. We gave her the boar tusk and the crow's feather of the creatures, the dragon creatures that we'd fought, and that helped kind of like remind her of some of her memories. We also gave her a vial of dragon's blood, and given that Vala is a wizard who specializes in blood magic as one of her specialities, this really helped her as well find who she is and what she was all about in her first life. We steered the talk towards talking about the necromancer in the hopes that she might tell us something about him, and she seemed a little confused at first, a little dismissive. Eventually she realised what we were trying to tell her, that we knew about the necromancer in the woods, and she told us flatly that he can't help us. So we left her in the hospital, hearing that we would see her later today at Mark's funeral at dusk, and we decided to ask our dice a question, our little augury dice. We had to ask them a question. The question was, Would pursuing the necromancer we encountered in the Lannis woods be able to bring about a resurrection or similar magic without what I would consider to be major negative consequence to myself or anyone in the town involved? We have discovered over the usage of these dice that being as specific as possible, lawyer-like, is more likely to get you a useful answer. The answer to that question was a mixed response. Weal and woe. There was to be both positives and negatives to that plan, or to that question. It was kind of a yes and no answer. And that is where we left off. We are a short amount of time away from dusk. Mark is to be interred at dusk in whatever way is appropriate to his culture. Mark was a hobbledahoy, a name for half hobbit, half human, and so you're not exactly sure whether he will be buried using human traditions of burial, or whether he will be whether his funeral will follow that of the hobbit traditions, and what even that entails. You're not sure. So, Apis, it is still your birthday for a few hours. You have a little bit of time before you have to be south for Mark's funeral. What do you want to do? Apis is 54 years old as of right now, yes. You're going to go back south and help with the food prep. That's right, Tree of Dave, you were, weren't you? You left the boar and the deer that you'd hunted earlier today. You left them only half skinned to go and talk to Vala, so you need to go back south to help with food prep. Unless there's anything else comes up in the chat right now that you guys want to do. Pick up a bun on the way. Yeah, you can go to a bakery, pick up something. It is quite late in the day, so the bakeries will have only the slightly staler stuff left, I imagine. Do we know where that necromancer is now? The necromancer is deep in the Lannis woods. He's several hours away from Fondurg, and seemingly has never been a problem for Fondurg. He was only ever dealing with animals and beasts, raising those from the dead. And the one time that you've met this necromancer, he demanded that you leave because you were in danger. He seemed to be cursed in some way and did not want people around. Apis has come to the conclusion that this necromancer has deliberately secluded himself in the woods so as to not be around people. How many arrows do we have? Well, if you see in the inventory below us here, you've got a green number 1, that is a tranquilizer arrow. You have 1 arrow that can cast the sleep spell on a creature. You have 4 in red, that is the 4 fire arrows that you have. Those are just regular arrows that are wrapped in the tar from a torch, and so you can dip those into a flame, it will ignite, and then you'll be able to fire a fire arrow. And then you have 8 arrows in blue, which are your masterwork arrows. Those are a +1 to attack, but not a +1 to damage. And then, on top of those, you have a bunch of regular arrows. You stopped counting after about 37 or so, but you can keep pulling them out of your magical quiver, and it seems to keep replenishing unlimited arrows for you. Could we convince the wizard to dispel the curse, or at least tell us more about it? Well, that's kind of what you were trying before Redial. So you went into to talk to Vala the wizard about her situation with the necromancer, and she, on top of being a little discombobulated, she told us, like flatly, she said, he can't help us. And she didn't necessarily want to talk in front of other company, it seemed. But you've heard that Vala has been trying to help that necromancer a little bit already. Pick up a moderately sized cake. It's our birthday after all. Maybe a little something with honey in it as well for Mel. Can't leave our best friend out of our birthday celebrations. Sounds like a good idea. Put a little yes in the chat if you want something from the bakery. Put a no in the chat if you don't, because obviously it's our birthday, but it's also somebody's funeral. Bringing a birthday cake to a funeral might be a little bit weird, but you could also buy it and then leave it somewhere out of sight for the funeral. Also, you don't know how Hobbit celebrations work. It could be that they have cakes and they enjoy food and things. Ooh, okay, a little bit, yes, buy a cake, but just eat it first. I'll buy it tomorrow. We've already hunted food for the funeral, yeah, but they might, if it is a Hobbit celebration, or a Hobbit, not a celebration, a Hobbit event, then it could be that, you guys are right down the line. I didn't realize buying a cake would be so divisive. Should we buy a birthday cake? We're a short while away from the funeral. So if we buy it now, we might have to store it somewhere or what have you. It's also relatively late in the day, so a bakery might have to bake us a cake right from we might have to order for them to bake us a cake, make an order for it. Could always order one to pick up tomorrow, maybe. How much for a cask of ale for the funeral? Yeah, you could buy a cask of ale for the funeral if you really want. Do we know about Hobbit funeral traditions? No, you do not. You can't even roll for it. Hobbits are notoriously secretive about their traditions and outsiders and things. The Hobbit language is actually one of the hardest ones to learn, not because it's a difficult language like Primordial, but because there are so few people who know it. They are very secluded about their own cultures. They keep their things to themselves. They're quite open to outsiders, like coming and participating in things. They're very hospitable people, but they'll only speak common around others, things like that. So they don't tend to go using their culture and tradition outside of their own lands usually. Well done. We get a 50-50 yes/no on buying a birthday cake. So I'm going to choose to interpret that as you go to a bakery, you find out that they have no cake on the just like in the cabinets because it's late in the day. So you order one for tomorrow. That way you're not turning up to a funeral with a cake. You still get a birthday cake. You get to eat it tomorrow. There you go. So that's what you do. You will go to you go to a baker's with the last of the so decisive. Yeah. Welcome to Twitch Tales, everybody. You head to a bakery. You place an order for a birthday cake tomorrow. You guys can choose what sort of a birthday cake it is. Keep in mind that we are in sort of a medieval Britain. There's a channel that comes up every so often in my feed on like Instagram or something. That's a guy who makes really old recipes and stuff. He's found like a book of really old recipes, and there's things like tomato soup cake and stuff, and he's like taking the piss as he's making it, and then usually it ends with him going, "Oh my god, that's delicious." So I imagine it's something like that. Maybe it's like a tomato soup cake or something that you wouldn't think would work, and it's actually really appropriate for the time. Curious how the votes would go if people couldn't see the progress. Yeah, same tree of Dave. If people couldn't see the progress, I don't think we'd get nearly as many 50-50 votes. All right, so we leaving the bakery, we head back to the south of the town. Are we going to buy a beer keg or something as well? Yes or no? We have provided the wake. We've provided the wake with a bunch of food just in case they wanted food at this wake. We went and hunted deer, boar, and a bunch of funguses and stuff. Do we want to also buy any beer or anything? It's definitely not unanimous, but there's quite a few yeses, and I'll just put it to a 1-minute poll, just a real quick 1-minute poll. Should we buy/bring any alcohol? We might be able to find a brewer in town that can do us like a small keg of ale or mead or beer. Yes or no? By the time you've left the bakery, it is starting to get dark. The longer you leave it, the darker it becomes. The more chance there is of encountering muggers on the streets of Fondurg. It's not an entirely lawless city or anything. There is a contingent of knights called the Knights of Kavosna. They are the law enforcement faction of this town, with much more important things to do. We don't want to flash money about. This is getting late. Thieves will be more out soon. There's a lot of prep the funeral needs help with. But with 56% of the vote, we decide, yes, we're going to bring some kind of alcohol. All right. We decide to find a brewer in town to buy some ale from. We will do so. I'll just grab my price thingy-mabobs here. Let's see. For a gallon of something, about 2 silver. 2 gallons, 3 gallon, a 3-gallon keg. We'll take just a 3-gallon keg of something. Easy enough to find a brewer in town, and we will buy 3 gallons of ale or mead or something, and that'll cost us, I'm going to say, 7 silver pieces. We have 6, so let's split one of the golds there. We hand over 7 silver for a 3-gallon keg, and we leave with it. Now, as we're leaving, it is definitively dusk. We may even be a little late to the funeral. Let's just see with a percentage check what the likelihood is of anyone from the Steel's Edge watching and waiting and mugging. Alright, you managed to make it out of Fonderg with your keg over your shoulder without getting mugged, without getting approached and mugged or anything, and let's make it a percentage check to see whether or not you are late to the funeral. You arrive there. You arrive at the south of town to the Pencampwr in Amgylshed. Sorry, not all the way to the Pencampwr. You're not walking quite that far. Before you get to the greenhouse where the PEA live, you pass by the graveyard of town. You go past the graveyard and you see that there are a bunch of people there. Most of them are around an empty grave with a coffin next to it, a relatively small coffin, given that he was a hobbledehoy. He wasn't very tall in stature. And the service is underway. It seems like it has only just started, and there are a couple of other people arriving as well. But you are just a couple of minutes late to the funeral. You see that surrounding the coffin and the grave are just mostly humans. You don't see a great deal of hobbits, but there are a couple. You see that there's a couple of older hobbits nearby. There is, in particular, one older hobbit that is, well, actually, given how hobbits age, you probably wouldn't even look older to Apis's eye. You see that there is an older human man, and a younger, probably equally old, but not showing it because of the aging situation, hobbit woman sitting next to him. They both look stoic and sad, but neither of them are actively crying at this stage. It seems like from their appearance, it seems they're probably all cried out. Stand at the back and listen, and it doesn't take very long. It's a respectful service. A few nice words are being said about Mark and his love of flowers and his love of plant material in general. His vast interest in all of that. You find that there has been a table put up nearby for refreshments. I suppose there's a small table nearby. But the main body of the food and things will not be had at this funeral. So you put your beer keg down respectfully nearby, and then walk over to the group where you listen to these eulogies and things that are being made about Mark. You remember that you had some flowers for his funeral. I don't remember where you put those flowers, but for brevity's sake, let's say that somebody brought them along for you on your behalf and hands you them now. You have your flowers that you'd picked on the way to town this morning, and you wait for the service to be over. It seems from how it's being conducted that it is predominantly a human service. It seems like he had much more human family here in Fonderg than hobbit family, and that has taken precedent over his funeral. The acolyte to Miganash, god of the journey between life and death, the Miganash acolyte heads to the coffin after the eulogies and places 2 copper pieces on top of the funeral with a black ribbon wrapped around them, the symbol of Miganash, and then the pallbearers, as it were, lift the coffin and slowly lower it into the grave. This is when his, who you assume to be his mother, stands up and walks to the grave as well with something wrapped up, kind of like beeswax paper, something wrapped, and she says a couple of words in a language you don't understand, and you don't really make it out anyway from standing at the back. But then she kind of lowers it into the pit as well and drops it on top of the coffin, and then people walk over and start pouring the dirt to fill in the grave as his father walks over and stands next to his mother and sort of puts his arm around her. it doesn't take long for the grave to be mostly filled in. People have started to turn and walk back to get back to their lives in the town. It's getting quite dark now. Eventually only the only people who are remaining are the people from the Pencampwr and Amgleshed Guild, the Druids Guild, Mark's parents, who stand there and wait for the whole thing to be filled in. Obviously the grave, the acolytes of Miganash who are doing the grave filling, and the acolyte of Miganash who did the service for them. What is it you want to do? Are you going to stick around? You're going to approach his parents and say anything, any respectful words, or do you want to head back towards the Pencampwr and Amgleshed where the wake will be? You are aware from, let's say, somebody has mentioned it, or you've overheard it, or whatever, that that there is going to be a service, sort of an after service, a wake down at the Pencampwr and Amgleshed. Did Vala make it? Yes, you did. You did see Vala. She was there with one of the acolytes of Flonanshale, the goddess of healing. One of the nurses, as it were, had accompanied Vala. You walk forward with those flowers in hand, and you place it on the grave, and you say your respects to Mark, and then you turn and offer your condolences to the parents, who they respectfully acknowledge you and your condolences, but they're not really in a talkative mood. Go find Vala and talk in private. You could do if you want. Are we going to try and talk to Vala before she heads back to the hospital, or are we going to go to the wake? So put a thumbs up if you want to go and talk to Vala. See if you can catch her before she goes back to town. Put a thumbs down if you want to go straight to the wake. All right. It seems like straight to the wake. We've already talked to Vala. She needs to rest. Fair enough. Is Vala not going to the wake? No, she's still discombobulated. She's she needs rest in order for her brain to recover from the reincarnation. All right, so we go over, pick up that keg that we've got, head south of town a little bit. We walk with a couple of people we don't really recognise, but protection in numbers and all that. We eventually get to the greenhouse where it's been set up, and we see that there's a couple of tables left out there. There's a place where you can finish skinning and preparing your animals. One of them has, the one that you'd partially skinned already, is finished already and put on a spit. Let's say that was the boar. I can't really remember, but the deer is still somewhere nearby that you can finish preparation on in case there's quite a lot of food. At this one, you do see that there are quite a few more hobbits than you saw at the actual funeral. It's still predominantly human here, but there are a lot more people at the wake portion than there were at the funeral portion, and most of the new people seem to be hobbits. You don't know if that's particular to this situation and these circumstances, or whether that's part of hobbit culture, that they're much more inclined to turn up to the after party, as it were, than the other part. Whereas Briar's here. Briar's definitely was at the funeral and at the wake as well. Is there other beer there? There is, yes. You see that there is a table full of different alcoholic beverages. There's like a punch bowl, and there's a bunch of bottles of various different things. You head over there and you can see that there's a little bit of elven wine. There's some dwarven whiskies, and there's a lot of different sort of cocktail-y kind of looking things. That there is a hobbit barman, as it were, that is tending this table and helping people find an alcohol to use. If there's an elder among them, ask what they know about the necromancer and his curse. An elder among who exactly? Just everybody at the funeral, or what? We head over to the desk, put the keg down, tell this person, hey, I've got something for and he goes, oh, thank you very much. That's very generous of you. What's your name? You say Apis Hive. You're like, oh, thank you very much, Apis. It's always worth having more in case people get rowdy. And pulls the keg up onto the table. It's almost the size of him. He's got like a little step ladder situation to get up and down to the table from behind. But you've left that with him. You turn and you head back over to where you left the deer, and you start to prepare that. You prepare the animal easily. I'm not going to make you roll for anything like that. You are proficient in stealth, survival rather. You know how to skin an animal for food purposes. You've lived your whole life as a hunter, living on the land and things. So you spend a good deal of it. There's music being played out front. There's all sorts of stuff. There's happy voices and songs and things. It definitely feels more like a party sort of atmosphere. You realise that hobbits have a way of celebrating life after death with imbibing food and alcohol and things, dancing and all of that. You finish your preparations and join the party, join the wake. Is there anything you want to do or say or talk to anyone? Anything that you want to do at this wake? Otherwise, we can skip to the evening, skip to the end of the night. Rather, it is already evening. Take a drink yourself. What sort of a drink would you want? What's Apis drinking tonight? There's wine and whiskey and alcohol. There's ale and mead. There's beer. There's some kind of fruity cocktaily looking thing. Mead. Few people saying mead. Where do you reckon Mel is through all of this? Do you reckon Mel's just kind of hanging out nearby? Has she gone into the greenhouse proper? I think she'd probably be in the greenhouse, right? She's probably enjoying the flowers of the greenhouse. Cocktail, go with the special thing. You head over to the table where the Hobbit was giving out the drinks and ask him what sort of thing's good, and instead of answering you, he asks you a few questions about about how much you enjoy alcohol and like what sort of fruits you've had before, and he asks you like a survey almost of questions that are only like partially related to drinking, and then at the end of that he says, "I think you'd like that," and he puts something together and hands you over like this sort of fruity cocktail that's got like a bittery kind of a taste to it, but it's actually pretty pleasant. Mel's going to get drunk on nectar. We need to keep an eye on her. We need to be the sober driver. Mel smelled the fruity drink and got wasted. Mel's dancing. Yeah, Mel's buzzing around. She's already drunk on the nectar from the nearby greenhouse, and she's come out and she's starting flying around, sort of doing a little air dance, buzzing around. Apis, I'm having a good time. All right. If there's nothing else specific that you want to do during the wake, you celebrate. You head to Briar. Briar seems like she's in much better spirits. Obviously, she's still sad, but she's the Hobbit in her is bringing out this enjoyment of the lively festivities at the very least. She kind of seems like waves of sadness coming over her, but with everybody kind of celebrating. There's you kind of overhear as you're passing and dancing and things. You overhear stories being told, anecdotes. People are laughing about things that Mark said or did during his life, and all sorts of just a celebration of his life in general. And people saying like, "Oh, Mark would have loved this," and all that sort of stuff. And there's more like a sense of a completion of a story rather than like the untimely stopping of a story, if that makes sense. Ask Briar why it's mostly humans during the ceremony, just out of curiosity. You ask Briar that, and she says, being that Briar Briar is a hobbit, but she was raised by gnomes. She says, I don't really know. I think mostly hobbits tend to. They tend to prefer the after party. I think the funeral's a little bit too dour for them. It's more of a human thing. No, I don't mean an offense to humans, of course, but it's more of a human thing to sort of dwell on the death portion of the end of a person's life. All right, so you eat, drink, and be merry as you can, given the circumstances. And then, where are you sleeping tonight? Are you going back? Are you going to ask Briar if you can sleep at hers again, or are you going to get your tent and head out into the wilderness? It's been a while since Apis has sort of gotten away from everybody and just slept on their own. Do you want to go back into Fondurg and sleep at one of the hotels or taverns, inns there? Where do you guys want to stay? Not Fondurg, just anywhere but Fondurg. Camp on our own, Briars. All right, looks like we are not in an agreement here, so we'll put it to a poll. Where to sleep tonight? How's the weather? Apis could use a recharge. Let's have a look how the weather is. I said it was kind of okay-ish, like on the verge. So let's roll this and see. Yeah, on the verge. It's still like slightly leaning towards bad weather than good. There's a couple of like trickles of rain during the wake. People don't seem to mind too much. A couple people spill into the greenhouse with the party, like the kitchen of a house party. People mill into the greenhouse to get out of the rain, and then when people are dancing, they're out in the rain, not really caring. All right, with 67% of the vote, Apis decides to ask Briar if it's okay to sleep with them, sleep at theirs tonight. Careful of the wording there. So you approach Briar towards the end of the night, and Briar's a little bit wasty. Doesn't take much. She's only 2 feet tall. And you say like, "You're sleeping in back at your place tonight?" And she says, "Yeah, I'll be sleeping at mine. I'm not gonna sleep here, am I?" You say, "No, I imagine not. Can I sleep at your place as well?" She says, "Yeah, of course. You're always welcome at my house, Apis. If you're ever passing in the woods, even if you're in the town and you want to not be in the town, you can just come to my house. It's fine. Yeah, it's a walk. But if you don't want to be in the woods if you want to not be in the woods, my house is in the woods, but like, you know what I mean. Like, I'm not in the. If you want to go to sleep inside the wood in the tree and you'll be safer, then you can do that anytime, Apis." You say, "Yeah, of course." Thank you, Briar. And you will escort Briar home, and once again, for the third time I think now, you find the huge tree that she sleeps in with the sort of rotten hole at the bottom between the roots. You tuck your way in, and you can see this this several tiered section that she's made in the inside of this rotted out tree. With a designated ranger for tonight, yes, getting Mel and Briar home. Yeah, Mel's like, "It was a good service, Apis. Wasn't that so much fun? I had so much fun. People were so kind. And there were so many people who wanted to touch me, and it's fine. But I was, those flowers, they're delicious. I will be sleeping a lot tomorrow morning." So we sleep at Briar's place, making sure that everybody's safe throughout the night. And in the morning, it is no longer your birthday, but you have a cake to pick up. You have a cake to pick up to celebrate, and it is the start of a new day. For the people who are newer here, you may not be aware, but Apis has been through so much lately that you are at the level where you can level up. You have had enough experience that you can level up to level 6. However that works in my games is that you have to take 6 days. So it's the number of days of the level that you're going to become. You have to take 6 days of downtime where you do nothing but train to level up. You can't do any sort of progression of story things. You can't adventure. You can't do any sort of resting to recover like your lingering injuries and stuff. It has to be time that is solely devoted to leveling up. So if you want that to start today, we can do so. And then we've got 6 days of downtime, and you'll be level 6. It's up to you. If there's other things to do, like picking up a cake is fine. You can do that as part of it. Traveling to Shadridge would count as adventuring, and so that would not be a part of the level up. If you travelled to Shadridge today, you could level up starting tomorrow. So what do you guys feel like? Do we want to? Can we level up by eating an entire birthday cake? Yeah. All right, let's put this to a poll. This is definitely going to be more than just a thumbs in the chat. The question is, do we begin level up today here in Fondurg? There are pluses and minuses to this. Some people want to go back to Shadridge, the frontier town, where we've got fewer people, and we haven't been there in a while. We might want to check on Mosh and things. The downside to that is if we go to Shadridge, then, you know, there's always things happening in my world. If you ever take some time off, the world just doesn't stop. Things will happen. I've given you plot hooks left, right, and centre. There will always be more things to do than you can possibly do. So there will always be things left undone. And those things will continue with or without you. I knew my actions had consequences, but my inactions? What a persistent world. Yeah, your actions have consequences, your inactions have consequences. I like that. Would we be able to commission the bowler arrows before or during the level up? No, not before you can, but not during. Commissioning particular arrows would count as adventuring. Alright, 70% of the vote say yes, let's begin level up immediately. So today is going to be the first day of your 6 days of level up. We do need to collect the displaced cloak at some stage, yes. But yes, the dragon scale braces will be at least 2 weeks away. I'm not fussed about getting any more special arrows. We've got near infinite arrows already, thanks to our new quiver. Cake and training with Briar and other PEA members, if they're willing. Fair enough. Alright, so, staying here in town to start leveling up. Apis decides, in the morning when you wake up, Briar's making some breakfast. No, actually she isn't. She was pissed. She's laying in. She's having a snooze. She's usually a morning person, but she's hungover. So Briar's having a little bit of a sleep in when you wake up. You go outside and find Mel like upside down in a bush. And you, what do you want to do for breakfast? You getting anything in particular? You need to go pick up that cake at some point. You start your level up. You have some breakfast. You start to train. Apis decides that after so long in captivity with the dragon and just a non-stop action-packed couple of weeks, it's about time to just take some time to relax and to train, maybe to go out hunting again, just stuff that you haven't done in a while and you miss doing. So you leave Mel to sort of recover in a bush, and you head north. You have some mushrooms. You have some of the leftover food from last night's wake for breakfast. You head north. You get into the town of Fonderg. You approach the bakery that you got the food from. You buy you buy your cake. How much is a cake going to be worth? Birthday cake. It's taken a couple hours to bake it this morning. What's a couple hours of? Let's see. Have I got cake on my on my list of food items? I'm going to say it's going to cost you 4 silver. It's going to cost you 4 silver for the cake. You happily pay it. There you go. You pick up a birthday cake. What does this cake look like, do you reckon? That's fancy. It's taken them quite a bit of work like honey's a little bit expensive, and it looks like a bee. They've formed it into the shape of a bee. So it's taken them a bit of work. The icing sugar. The sugar isn't exactly cheap either. So medieval English style made from potatoes. It's a potato and honey cake. It's three tiers of deliciousness. Alright, so you guys can make your own headcanons about what this cake looks like. You head back to Briar's place with the cake. You by the time you get there, Mel is kind of buzzing around. She's got a little bit of wiggle to her buzzing, but she's finding some flowers to sip some nectar from. And you wake up Briar with some cake. You enjoy cake this morning and talk about your birthday and what you're planning to do. Briar asks what you're doing for a while, and you say you think you're going to take some time to just train and relax and things. And then you begin your day. You spend the whole day just training, well, this day is probably spent just kind of relaxing, and then you can start your training proper. You head out into the woods. Maybe you do some arrow work, some testing the limits of your quiver a little more, firing off arrows, testing your speed and agility at drawing and firing. The day goes by without too much incident. Train with one of the knights, train with Joey. You could try. Mechanically get a new favoured enemy in language, new terrain we're good in. No, Cat Foxy, we have chosen to multi-class into fighter. That was a decision made earlier on in a previous episode. We're multi-classing into fighter, and we're going to be getting a second wind as a bonus action, and we trained in the unarmed fighting style, so that if we ever take our lost of our bow and arrows and things again, like we were during captivity, we won't find it as hard to fight our way out. So during this day of training, maybe you're firing your arrows off, but you're also just like, every so often you're just kind of like wondering, how would I fight if and Apis isn't proficient in fighting necessarily, so it's like they're not super good at it, but they're thinking about how to do that perhaps. While training, if we kill anything as a side effect, can we take any of those dead animals to the soup kitchen? I'll say so, yeah, Wraith, why not? You go out hunting today, you kill an animal, something relatively small, maybe like a large hare or something, and you take that to the soup kitchen. You donate that to the soup kitchen in town, and they're appreciative of it. That evening, however, when you go to sleep, where are you going to be sleeping? You're going to be sleeping at Briar's the whole time, or is anybody keen to sleep elsewhere? You're going to sleep out in the woods. You're going to sleep in Fondurg. You're going to sleep at Briar's the whole 6 days. Staying at Briar's sounds good. Most people saying staying at Briar's. All right, so we stay at Briar's for the few days. Briar has work to be doing as well, so she's not always there, but she's perfectly happy for you to be there when she's not. She heads to the Penkempur and Amgolshed. You're sticking around the woods. And then maybe you're at the woods for 1 or 2 of the nights of the 6 days, but for the most part you're at Briar's. Regardless, during the night you go to sleep and you find that the day's activities are replaying in your dreams. You're out in the woods and you hear a noise behind you, a voice that seems to be almost talking to themselves, and you spin around and see that there is this creature following you. It's hard to tell form. It's definitely humanoid, it's definitely bipedal and standing upright, but your brain is having a hard time comprehending what shape it is and what it is. It's sort of one of those situations in a dream where it's like, you were there but you were also my mother, like how does that work? Eventually, though, seemingly settling on something, your brain decides that this creature that's following you is a dragonborn, a green dragonborn. And they're speaking to themselves, and they're sort of mumbling. You can't make out what they're saying, but they're just sort of standing and watching you. You call out to them why they're watching you. What are you doing here? You say things that you can't really remember what you were saying. You were just calling something to them. And then you realise you're not in a forest anymore. You're not somewhere where you were during the day. This is not memory of things you've been through. This is a new area. You're in a place that you haven't been. It seems like an indoor establishment of sorts. There's a ring in the center of the room, like a boxing ring, and you're standing in it, and there's things around you outside of the ring that look like training equipment, and the Green Dragonborn is standing nearby and looking at you quizzically. It seems like it's mumbling to itself still. And then you wake up. The next day, you remember partial parts of that dream. Some of it's fuzzy to you, but some of it's super clear. You're not exactly sure what it meant. But you spend the next day training as well. Maybe this day you go and, as some people wanted to, you spend this day in the town of Fondurg. You didn't hear what he was mumbling though. You You punch some trees for firewood, Minecraft style. You let's say, actually, I quite like that, Cat Foxy, and it may have been a joke, but you walk into the woods, and you're starting off your fire and arrows and things, realizing that the quiver keeps replenishing the regular looking arrows for you to a certain extent, and then you're thinking a little bit more about unarmed fighting now, and you're thinking about like what happens if you get removed of your bow and arrow again, and you jab at a couple of the trees, and realize that, oh, that hurts. Like if I was to smack somebody in the face, like a dragon scale person, like a dragonborn or something, and then the flashes of your dream come back and you remember, oh, there was a dragonborn in my dream. What was he doing? And then you're just kind of like jabbing at this tree. You're not really. You sort of just, you spend a little time just kind of toughening up your hands a little bit. You start bleeding from the knuckles and stuff, but you cast. Eventually, it gets to the point where you're pretty sure you've broken one of your fingers from how much you've been sort of practicing and training with this. But you cast Cure Wounds on yourself, and you heal up the wounds, and you continue on a little bit more. You've got 6 spell slots a day that you're not casting for anything else really, so you can just like toughen up your fingers on the trees for most of today. Then you go to sleep that evening, and you are almost immediately in a boxing ring of sorts, and there is a green dragonborn nearby. Again, he starts out as this sort of unidentified shape, this humanoid creature, but almost immediately your brain solidifies him into a green dragonborn. And again, he mumbles to himself a little more than anything else. Only now he's standing in the ring with you. He's just kind of standing in the corner. He's sort of leaning against one of the corners on the ropes. You, what do you want to do? You have some semblance of interaction in this dream. Some of it is dictated, as dreams are, but some of it, you're starting to get a little bit more lucidity. You say, "Are you the merry gentleman?" The Dragonborn definitely reacts in a way that you don't seem to. Actually, let me make an insight check on your behalf here. Dice cam on. Let's shift some of this so I've got some space. Let's grab an Apis dice. Let's roll an insight check for you. 14. 14 plus your insight of 2 is 16. With a 16, you can recognize this reaction on his face as one of shock more than anything else. Then after that shock, the Dragonborn doesn't say anything. He doesn't respond to your question, but he also doesn't mumble to himself anymore. He just stands there and kind of his shock turns into quizzical look. Didn't expect to hear us speaking. It seems that way. It's difficult to tell Dragonborn expression with their significantly different facial features, but you'd swear that he curls his lips into somewhat of a smile before you wake again. On the third day, you head to town. You replenish some of your rations, perhaps, or I don't know, maybe you just feel like taking a stroll into town and whatever you happen to be doing in town. You meet with Joey. Joey's one of the Knights of Kavosna. He's also a Bridden, a half human, half elf. A very attractive young gentleman who's been rather nice to you, kind to you. You speak to Joey about like what you've been doing, and you just he mentions seeing your fingers a little bit swollen, and you mention, yeah, I've been toughening up. I'm just concerned that if I ever get removed from my bow and arrow again, I might not be able to do much. And he says, "Oh, I can teach you a few things. I used to box as a child." And you take him up on that. You head with Joey to a place in sort of the outskirts of Fonderg. He takes you. It's his. Let's say it's. He had the early shift, so he's finished by the time you get there. And so he says, "Oh, I'm getting off in an hour. Why don't you come with me?" You go back in an hour. You go with him to a building where you open the front doors, Let's say I'll have you roll a perception check. See how much you notice about certain things. Let's go. That is a 7. 7 plus your perception of 5. That's a 12. That's not too bad. With 12 perception, you notice that on the way into this building, it looks like a relatively small. It's like a single story, but it's wide. It's wide and deep, but not very tall. And above the door, there is a symbol that looks like that kind of thing. It's a symbol that looks like that. Two wrists crossed at the palm, two hands crossed at the wrists, with palms facing outwards, with fingers and thumbs curled away from one another. As he opens the door, there is an instant recognition from you. You've never been in this building, but it is quite clearly some kind of a gym. You see, standing in the corner, in the center of it, a ring, a boxing ring. Around the outside is training equipment and a boxing bag, what do they call them? A punching bag. What do you want to do? As Joey leads you into the room and says, "Look, let's spar." You ask Joey, "Do you know any green dragonborn?" He says, "No, I don't think so. Should I?" Say, "No, never mind." You approach the bag, show him the style to Joey for comment before sparring with him. All right, yeah, you do so. You walk over to the bag. You give it a few punches, and Joey says, "Just let me. Can I just, if you don't mind?" You say, "No, please." He says, "All right. Let me show you the. So you're punching around, and your wrist is broken, and you need to have straight from the middle knuckle down to the elbow. Keep that straight, and power comes from it." He gives you these tips and techniques as you're punching. Keep punching forwards and through. You need to punch through, and don't. You're stopping at the bag. You need to be punching the back of the bag. Keep the power all the way through it, and the power doesn't come from the arm. It comes from all of the body. Look, and you're coming through like this. He's giving you techniques, and it's proving useful to you. You ask him who runs this facility, and he says, "Oh, this is a temple to Panros." I'm going to make a religion check for you, see if you've ever heard of Panros. Let's mix it up. Let's use Apis' other dice. There it is. 10. 10 plus your religion, which would be a +3 for you. That's just a 13. You have not heard of Panros before. This is the Acolytes of Panros run this facility. I don't know exactly if any of them own it per se. Who's Panros? He says, "Oh, I don't." He's one of the war gods. I think he might be a lesser god. I'm not so sure exactly. Say, "Oh, okay." He says, "Yes." Let me roll a religion for Joey. See how much he knows about Panros. A decent amount, more than you anyway. He says, he's a martial artist, I suppose. He's sort of the god of the war domain. He's the god of martial arts, boxing and whatnot. He said, "Oh, okay. Is he a green dragonborn?" He says, "No." "What's your obsession with the green dragonborn? You've asked me twice now." You say, "I just do you tell him or not? Do you mention your dreams? We trust him, no reason not to tell him." Yeah. See, I just I'm seeing visions. Last couple of nights I've had dreams of a green dragonborn, and interestingly, this. And you point to the ring. It says, "You've dreamt of this?" Say, "Yes, green dragonborn." Ben, he says, "Oh, I don't know the first thing about that. I'm sorry. Maybe you're having visions. Maybe it's Panros. I don't know." You spend the next little while though. Just with he teaches you a bit more, and then he says, "All right, now let's move on to a moving target, shall we?" And he picks up some boxing pads, and as you like punch and hit, and he's blocking and stuff. He's teaching you a little bit of the training that he can give you of what he needs to do, and then he kind of checks his. I was going to say checks his watch. He doesn't have a watch. He checks a. There's a grandfather clock in the corner, and he checks that. And time. I have to be going. I've got a meal. I've got meal plans, but you're welcome to stay here. The acolytes aren't in at the moment, but whenever the doors are open, people are welcome to use it. So you stay for a little bit longer and train a little bit, and then eventually you need food yourself, so you leave and head to wherever you're sleeping, either Briar's or in the woods near Briar. We practice on the bag with the planar ring, yeah, of course. Right before leaving, when you're in there on your own, you summon your planar warrior ability. You feel that crackling energy of your body, that goosebump kind of feeling. You summon it down your arm and into the ring, and then wham! You punch at the bag. Let's see how well you did, eh? Let's roll an attack, see if it's a crit or anything. 14 plus stuff will definitely hit enough to cause damage per se. At this point you are not proficient in unarmed fighting, so it's just 1 plus your strength mod of 2, so 2 total. 2 total plus your planar warrior is d8. 6. So 8 points of damage to this ring, to this punching bag. Boom! It doesn't break the bag, but it definitely sends it swinging quite far as the ethereal force is forced into the bag, sends it swinging. You think, oh, maybe a bit dangerous that. You look at where you've hit the bag, and it's got a bit more wear to the exterior of it. Before we leave, can we leave a copper coin on one of the posts of the corner of the ring, so we can check if the dream is this place again? Sure thing, you can indeed. You take a copper out of your bag, and you leave it on the on one of the corner posts of the ring. It doesn't seem anybody else is in the ring tonight. Anybody's using Panros's training facilities. So you leave and hope that it's still there. Check your finger with the ring. Your finger's fine. It doesn't seem to have broken your finger at all because of the magic of the planar warrior. For people who haven't heard the description before, planar warrior turns the weapon that you're using into an ethereal version of itself, and then just at the moment of impact, it comes back into the material world, and forces that magic energy into the target. So it didn't hurt your hand because your hand was ethereal at the point of impact. You head home, you have your dinner, and then you go to sleep. And in the dream, you are back in the forest. And there is you're hunting, and you don't realize you're dreaming at first. But as you hunt, you are followed, and you realize that there's kind of like a feeling of being watched. Eventually, though, you see that what you're being followed by are fairies. There are a couple of them flit within range, just out of sight, just flitting between bushes, between trees, until you realise for sure that those were definitely fairies that you saw in the corner of your eye. And so you stand and stop where you are. There's definitely kind of like really quiet giggling happening. What do you want to do? Are fairies good or bad? Both. And neither. Fairies operate on a different sense of morality. They don't really ascribe to the mortal realm's versions of what good and bad means. You go to them, you approach them, you call them out, and you say, "Look, I know you're there. I can hear you. You're not being quite as sneaky as you think you are. So just come on out. What's going on?" And one of them pops right up onto a leaf, and almost as if they're completely weightless, they're just standing on the edge of a leaf, and the leaf barely bends under their weight. You can see that they are about a foot tall, just less than, probably about 27 centimeters tall. They have dragonfly wings. They've got long black hair. It's just like up in like a real big tangled mess with like sticks and things in it. She seemingly is female appearing, and has lilac skin, just caked in dirt and berry juices and things. Her hair's full of dandelion seeds sticking out in all directions. It falls down over her eyes, making it harder to even tell what she's looking at. Her eyes are swirling shades of deep emerald and sapphire. And her eyes seem to match the viridescent metallic sheen of her wings. She jokes. Hello! And she speaks to you in Sylvan, a language you understand, a language of the Fae. She says, found us! Here, have this. And she flies across to you. With alarming speed, she is right there up in your face. And she holds out a tiny little fairy hand. She's got it clasped around something. What do you take it? Do you say anything? Do you back away? Do you try and swat her? What do you want to do? So, what is it? She says, take it. But what is it? It's yours is what it is. You take your hand out, you put your hand out, she drops it into your hand, and it lands on its back and then quickly like flips itself over and scuttles, because what she's dropped into your hand is like a can't remember the type of beetle it is. She drops a beetle into your hand, kind of like a scarab beetle looking thing, but it's like a black shiny shell that's got like a bluish kind of a reflection in the light. It just kind of like scuttles around in your hand, and she says, "It's for you." You say, "Okay, thank you," and she says. And then she flits around your head, goes twice around your head, and then darts back over and lands on the leaf. And you say, "Oh, okay. It's cute. What do I do with it?" And she says, "It's a beetle." You're like, "Yeah, I know it's a beetle, but what do I do with it?" She says, "It's a beetle." And she answers it as though that should answer the question. Obviously, it's a beetle. You think, okay. And then there's this other kind of fluttering off to the left, like out of the peripheral vision. You see this fluttering as another fairy takes up and lands on the branch. This one is a lot larger than the previous one that you're looking at. The one that you're looking at seems to be more of, actually you know quite a bit about fairies, don't you, because your mother was really interested in the Fae. So I will roll you a nature check and see if Apis knows the difference between the two fairies that they're looking at. Hello. Oh, 16 plus your nature modifier, which would just be straight intelligence, so 19 total. With a 19 total, you hit back onto the stories of your childhood. Your mother was obsessed with the Feywild and Fae and fairy creatures and things, and told you a lot of fairy stories, which is why you can speak Sylvan in the first place. She taught you it. And in your childhood, you've also met a couple of fairies when they almost left your friend, your childhood friend, in a bit of dire straits. They had her dancing, and she probably would have danced herself to death if you hadn't come about. But with a 19, you can immediately recognise that the one that came across and gave you a beetle, she's probably a pixie or something similar to a pixie. Whereas the one that comes up and stands on the ledge beside you is probably a legitimate true fairy, as they're known, a true fairy. He's a little larger. He's a little bit more humanoid. He's still relatively small, barely over a foot tall, but he's just like a little stockier. It seems like his wings are... they must have magical quality to them because of his structure. It doesn't seem like his tiny little brittle... what's the word? Crepe paper. His crepe paper-like wings probably wouldn't be enough to hold his body up if it wasn't for that. He stands there, or this creature that doesn't seem to dress quite as identifying for its gender as the first one does. This creature stands there and says they have long black hair and translucent gossamer blue and purple robes on. They have their crepe paper-like wings are much more resembling that of a moth, like greyish kind of furry kind of texture to it. And says the beetle is important in a way that we can't explain to you yet. And you say, "Oh, Sorry, who are you? And he says, I am Trinket. What is your name? You say, do you tell him your name or not? You say, you can call me friend. He says, well, friend, we have been sent to give you a message, and the beetle is part of that message. But we have been specifically instructed not to tell you of its purpose. And Exilia, well, I'm giving it away now. Exilia says, but you can work it out. And you see that Trinket kind of rolls his eyes a little bit, and then says, we are working for a gentleman that you may know, and well, and you say, did the merry gentleman send you? And he says, that is one of his names, yes. He says that he is disappointed that you have not arrived to train with him yet, but he says that he is willing to have you whenever you see fit to find him and seek him out. He is too busy to approach on his own right now. How do I keep this beetle? Isn't it going to try and escape? And Trinkets the other fairy goes, that's part of the fun. Find it, keep it. It's going to get away. You gotta get it. And Trinket says, no, it is not going to get away. It is going to stick. Don't spoil it, she says. It is going to stick with you. You just have to. It will always be on your person. You can try and get rid of it. It's not going anywhere. You ruin everything, she says, and then does like a little backflip off of her leaf and just down into the undergrowth beneath. Says, look, I don't have time for her games, so just do what you need to do. And then he disappears as well. He does a similar sort of a backward swan dive up and off of the leaf, and then disappears into the undergrowth. Can you inspect magic on it? Yes, you don't have detect magic, and you are not proficient in Arcana, but you can certainly try an Arcana check on it. So now this beetle is kind of just like still just making circles around your hand. Is there a place for us to travel to the Feywild? It's not something we know. You as a Horizon Walker, you have the ability to detect portals. So you can once per day you can sort of attune yourself to nature and see if there's a portal within a certain radius of you. I think it's like a mile or something. And you've done that once before and found a portal. You don't know where that one led to, sorry. And you've done it another time and found a portal which, went upon investigation, you discovered was a portal to the plane of air. So you don't know, the first portal that you found may have been a portal to the Feywild, or it may have been a portal to hell. Like you don't know. And those are the only two portals to other planes that you've ever met, that you've ever experienced. You look down at this bug. Let's roll an Arcana check for you, see if you can understand any of the magic on it. Hey, 16 again. This dice is doing well for us today, this little gem dice. 16 plus your Arcana of 3, another 19. With a 19 you can tell that this is definitely, obviously, quite a magical bug, in that it's not acting like a normal insect would. You've spent your whole life in a forest, you know how bugs tend to scuttle away from predators and things. This one is just happily just doing circuits on your hand. Other than that, you can't tell any of the magic of it. It's not like inscribed with magical runes. It's not giving off like a glowing energy or anything. It just looks like a regular bug. It's just not acting like a regular bug. In Sylvan we say, sup, and then it stops doing circuits and looks up at us. Its little like head piece tilts a little bit, and its antenna look up towards you. You say, what does it eat? There's no response from the now hidden fairies. But it's not long before the dream fades in a haze of green mist, and it is the morning already. It didn't seem like you were asleep for very long, but it is the morning. You are starting the next day of level up. This is the 4th day. As you wake up, you check your belongings. You don't see a bug anywhere. Let's roll an investigation check to see how well you look for this bug on your person in your belongings. That is a 10 plus your investigation of 3. With a 13, you do not find this bug. Apparently it only existed in your dream, it seems. Ask Briar if she knows what beetles eat. You say, excuse me, Briar, just as she's waking. Yes? Do you know what beetles eat? And she says,
Oh, beetles eat all kinds of things depending on what the beetle is. Really, there's all kind like ladybirds eat aphids and other sort of smaller insects, and then there's dung beetles that eat fecal matter. There's all kinds of different beetles. And they all eat different things, but usually they're decomposers. They'll eat rotting vegetation, wood sometimes. Wood lice, of course, eat wood. You've got dirt, ones that just eat dirt and filter that. They've got fungus beetles, and you describe the beetle to her for reference. All right, let's see how well you do at describing it. Let's give you a. You're not seeing it this morning, so you've just got the dream for reference. I'm just going to do an intelligence check, see if you can remember details about it. Let's go with that one. Pa. 8. 8 plus your intelligence of 11. You do an okay job, but it's not a perfect description. You just kind of describe. It kind of looks like it was about that big, and it's blue. She says, Was it around here?
And you say, no, it was in my dream. And she says, your brain could just be making one up. Then it might not be a real beetle. You say, no, I've got reason to believe it's a real beetle. You say, okay, well, I don't know of that one. And you say, well, it's blue. It had like a bluish sheen to it, but it was kind of like a black, shiny, dome-like shell. She knows a lot about animals. Let's see if she recognises it from your description. Given that you got an 11, that sets the DC. Okay. Hey, she got it. She says,
Oh, I think I know the one you're talking about, but I've only ever read about them in books. I've never seen them in this part of the world. They definitely don't exist in this forest, I can tell you that much. So as far as what they eat, I'm afraid I wouldn't know. Also, the name of them are eluding me at the moment. The Wayfinder beetles or something, I think they're called.
Do they have a specific connection to the Feywild that you're aware of? She says, I don't know, I'm afraid. I don't know them too much. I don't really remember anything about them. She rolled well enough to remember what they were, but not high enough to. She didn't like. If she'd have gotten that 20, she might be able to remember more about it. Try calling out for it. You call out for it in Sylvan. What are you saying, Beaker? Saying something in Sylvan, just like, here, beetle, beetle, beetle. You say, beetle, are you there? You call this out in Sylvan, and coming out from the inside of your robes, somewhere that you definitely would have felt it if it had been there before, a little blue beetle crawls up your neck, and you feel it, and you kind of just instinctively brush it aside, and it brushes off of you and lands on your forearm, and then starts crawling its way to your palm, and does like a little circuit in the corner of your palm, the center of your palm rather. And Briar says,
Oh, okay. Maybe not just in your dream.
And you just like hold it out to Briar, and it's kind of just like walking around in circles.
Wow.
She gets real close and is fascinated by staring at it and watching. Okay, it's real. Get Mel to talk to it, find out what it can tell her. Why Mel, Sparrow? You can speak Sylvan. Oh, because it's an insect and she can speak to insects. She can't like speak to insects. She can just command them. She can make swarms of them and stuff. Captain Jack's magic compass? Maybe. You say to the beetle in Sylvan, do 3 circles and stop if you understand me. And it circles around your palm once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, 6 times. This time it doesn't seem quite as random movement. It's not following an exact pattern around your hand. It's for the most part going clockwise around your palm, but it's not taking the exact same route every time. And it's kind of stopping, and its antennae are going a little bit every time, but it never stops in one place for very long. So it can't count. Yeah, it can understand us, but can't count. Maybe it's linked to emotions. Do we recognize a pattern? Not particularly. Just that it's turning for the most part clockwise. So on this 4th day of training, what do we want to do? Do we want to focus on second winding, or more of the hand-to-hand stuff? Do we want to go back to the gym with Joey, see if Joey's got a day off, or do we want to go out into the woods and start punching some trees again? Do we want to try and understand what this beetle is? The beetle is part of the level up, so so I'm allowing for you to use some of this beetle juice. Second wind, exhaustion training. Lucy freak in the sky with diamonds. Nice, Medi Holmes. Nice. Lucy freak in the sky with diamonds. There you go. You get inspiration for that. Can Briar ritual cast with speak with animals to talk to it? Yes, she can. Yeah, she does so. She finishes the ritual of speak with animals, and she tries speaking with this beetle and says like,
where are you? Where are you from? What's your name? What are you? What's the deal here?
And the beetle sort of stops as she starts talking to it, and then its antenna kind of move a little, and she says, "It doesn't seem to be understanding me." And you talk. She talks again, and it just like continues walking around a little bit, and then stops and looks at her. It's not giving me anything in return. It's not speaking to me. It's not acting like a regular. Let me just check something. And she digs down into the forest floor near just outside of her house until she's found something to talk to, some kind of woodlouse or something. And she talks to that, and it gestures back in certain ways and then scuttles away. And she says, "See, that worked. It's not like insects are always very rare in the usefulness. When you speak with them, there's almost little to nothing that they know. They know what's in the exact vicinity around them at that particular moment, but they don't have memories per se. They don't really remember where they've been or what threats there are and stuff. They're very instinctual beings. But at least they tell me something. I can get something from their movements. This one doesn't seem to be responding at all." But it understood Sylvan. Ask it to go counterclockwise. You say in Sylvan, you say to it, "Can you move counterclockwise?" And it looks up towards you with its little antenna moving, and then it just keeps walking, and it keeps walking in a clockwise direction. I thought we explained to Briar about our trip to the Feywilds and how we keep dreaming about the Merry Gentleman. Having given this beetle, she's been to the Feywilds, she's trained there, might be able to tell us more. So you tell her this. You say all of that. We've been to Feywilds in our dream and stuff, and the Merry Gentleman there, and Archfey, yada yada. And she says, "Oh, well, I would say then that this has probably been presented to you as a way of finding your way to the Feywild. I don't know a lot about the Feywild because I have been there once, but I forgot a lot of it when I came back. There's not there's an enchantment on the Feywild where if you come back from it, you are unlikely to." And you say, "Yeah, actually, the first time I met the Merry Gentleman was something I didn't remember until much later, when he deemed it appropriate to tell me that we'd already met, because he took my memory from me when we came back." She says, "Oh, it might not have been him taking your memory, it might have been the plane itself. It's a strange phenomenon, one that I don't fully understand." It's a wayfinder beetle. Maybe ask it to show us the way. You say to it in Sylvan, "Can you show us the way?" And it like looks up with its antenna moving towards you, and then it just kind of just stares at you. It doesn't keep moving again. It just stands in your palm and doesn't move. "Show me the way to Shadridge." Again, it doesn't move. It just kind of stares at you with its antenna moving. "Can you lead me the way to the nearest Feywild portal?" As soon as you say that in Sylvan, its antenna flick away from you. It starts walking along your finger and just stands on the tip of your middle finger. You can only do specific things. Seems like that. Turn around 180 degrees. You turn around. As soon as you start to move your finger, it crawls down your finger and up your thumb. And then as soon as you continue moving, it crawls down that and along your forearm and towards your elbow. It is constantly pointing with its little antenna in a particular direction. You turn around, it goes up your arm and onto your shoulder, and it's like looking at the back. You turn all the way around, it comes down this shoulder, along your forearm, and out onto the middle finger of this hand. Can I call you Thomas Thomas? I don't know what the reference is, but it doesn't respond. Can we extend our cloak map on the ground and put it over it? Maybe it does something there. Definitely a good idea, Sasha. You can try. You take your cloak off, which for people who are new to the channel is a cloak of many fashions. Basically, whenever you're wearing it, you can think of what it should look like, and it will look like that thing. And previously, you have seen like a little map of the local area around the Lannis Woods and Fondurg, and you have put that map onto the inside of your cloak. So you take that off, you put it down with the inside facing up, so it's like a map of the area. You put the beetle down onto that. As soon as you put your finger down onto it, it does not get off of your finger. It just sort of stays on your hand. It doesn't get off of your finger and onto the cloak. You try and scoop it onto the cloak. You try and force it onto the cloak. It just keeps moving around and up your hand and away from wherever it was. A GPS brand is called a TomTom. Ah, gotcha. TomTom. Thomas. Nice. I guess we might go about 1 kilometer in one direction, see if the beetle points, and have a rough estimation of where it should be. You can do so, but I will warn you that if you start to follow this beetle now, that is now starting to get into the realm of adventuring again, and you will have to put a pause on your leveling up. This will no longer count as training towards a level up if you start to follow this beetle. Ask it, can you show us the way to the Merry Gentleman? It comes back to the center of your palm, and it starts to do a little circuit. It stops and looks up at you, and its eyes start to wander like this. Doesn't seem to respond to show us the way to the Merry Gentleman. Show me the way to Amarillo. Every day I've been hugging my pillow. We'd have to restart the leveling up, wouldn't we? Not just pause. Probably yes, restart. More cake it is then. Moving 360 degrees, so it always points the same direction. Yeah, that's what I described before, Della. It always points in the same direction. It says Beetle Boy to pause. We'll come back to it, giving him some lunch. So as soon as you say like, all right, good one, Spates. You say, can you show me the way to the air realm? It moves from your palm out along your thumb in a different direction to where it was pointing before. The rough direction that it was pointing on your finger, the direction it was pointing cardinally, was to the north, roughly. The one that it is now pointing is more northeast. You want to have the beetle pointing forward to the Feywild and then use Detect Portal. Okay. Good idea, Tree of Dave, and you can do Detect Portal once a day, so why not? You have it. It's along your thumb, pointing in a different direction. You say, show me the way to the Feywild, and it turns around and up your finger. And then you use your ability to detect portals that you've used like twice before in the entire time that you've been a Horizon Walker. You focus in on the energies of the universe, particularly the force magic that is everything that create the magic that is fundamental to all of the magics. And let me look up the range on it because this is going to be important. I believe it is a mile, but let me just double check that. As an action, you can detect the distance and direction to the closest planar portal within 1 mile of you. You can't use this feature again until you finish a short or long rest. So it's not just once per day, it's once per short rest even. It's anywhere within a mile, but I think I have said before, and I'm going to say so again now because it makes sense to me, that I'm going to tie this in with your natural terrain, your favoured terrain feature to make favoured terrain a little bit more useful as well, where it has the same effect. So with your favoured terrain, what it means is that you can say, like, are there any undead within X number of feet of me? And you can say up to 1 mile. But if you're in your favoured terrain, it can go up to 6 miles instead. And so I'm going to say that Detect Portal acts in the same way. If you were in your favoured terrain, you can extend that range out to up to 6 miles. So you detect portal and you think about it, whether there's a portal within 6 miles of you, and there is a portal. It says, you gain the ability to magically sense the presence of a planar portal. As an action, you detect the distance and direction to the closest planar portal within 1 mile of you, or within 6 in this case. So the portal that you detect is in the northeast. in the direction that the beetle was pointing when it was on your thumb when you asked it about the plane of air. And you happen to know that from Fondurg, the direction to the portal that you know of in the Lannis Woods, the portal to the plane of air, is that direction, and it's within 6 miles. Can we ask it the direction to any of the hell equivalent planes to see if it points to Fondurg? You can. Let me think. I didn't finish fully statting out this beetle and what it can do, so let me think if I want to put limitations on it. I think it should be a per day thing, so let me check if it's not run out yet. You ask it this and it doesn't seem to respond. It comes back to your palm and just kind of like circles. So either there's no plane, there's no portal to the lower planes, or it didn't respond to you for whatever reason. The Fey plane is further away than the plane of air. That's what you get from it, yes. All right, so for the sake of brevity, moving the story along, eventually you've sort of practiced a few different things with this beetle. You've tried a few different things. Eventually it disappears up your arm and just disappears into your armor, underneath your armor somewhere, and you don't feel it once it's gone inside. It doesn't seem to be like tickling your skin or anything. You spend the rest of the day training. What are you training? Training some boxing? You're just going to punch some trees again, or are you going to the boxing ring? All right, so you let's say that you, for this day, you can go to the boxing ring tomorrow. So for this day, you train against the trees. You're in the woods. You're practicing what Joey was teaching you about, like keeping your hips squared on and punching from the chest rather than from the arms, like bringing your power behind it and all of this stuff. And then you kind of like duck back and try some of your kicks. Your kicks are awful though. You've not got any training with your legs yet. But wham wham, you sort of bring into the trees and you start right up against the elbows, like practicing, like just toughening up your skin around here. You cure wounds on yourself a couple times. Did Joey teach us how to break our pinkies? All right, that is going to be a disinspiration. So you smack against the trees. You're trying your best to just like toughen yourself up. Elbow strikes. Using cure wounds on yourself whenever you get a bit messed up. Eventually, though, you're out of cure wounds, and you're still just intent on training a little bit more. You blood yourself up a bit, and then you're getting a little bit out of breath. But you think, no, if I'm in a situation where I'm fighting for my life, I'm gonna have to keep going. There's this energy takes over you that you feel like I could keep going. I can keep going. I'm gonna dig deep and I'm gonna keep going. And you find a second wind and you manage to dig into this tree bark a little bit more. And eventually you get to the end of the day and you've done like a decent amount of training today. You've like properly blooded up your hands and healed them over and over again, and you're starting to feel like they're a little bit hardier, a little bit more durable. But you've still got a lot of technique to learn. Near the end, try with a planar ring again. Yeah, right towards the end of it, you summon that planar energy down into the ring and you smash a big, huge, like chunk of wood off of the tree that you're punching. It splinters off to the side, and you see a few wood lice come out of it. You go to sleep, and you are almost immediately awoken by somebody shaking you, and you realize that you're in a ring with a dragonborn who is punching you and pummeling you in the chest. You're already standing upright. You don't remember how you got here. It's almost like you were woken up, but you realize instantly that you're sleeping, and the dragonborn is going to town. He is just absolutely pummeling your body. Just unarmed, just absolutely laying into you. What do you do? Do you mind, sir? I was sleeping. How rude. Arms up, you fight back. All right, let's see what you can do. All right, here we go. 3. Bam, you get punched hard in the face. You go down, whack. He steps back. He doesn't continue pummeling you as you have gone down. He steps back. He waits for you to get up. You put a hand to your nose where you're pretty sure there should be blood. There's no blood. 17. Kind of cocked, but it would have landed on a 17. 17 plus stuff. When you stand back to your feet, however, you're feeling more warmed up. You're feeling more ready for it. He, as soon as you're back on your feet, as soon as you're like standing upright again and seem to have your own balance, he doesn't wait. He just comes in with another big swinging. It's sort of like a right jab. He's coming towards you. You duck out of the way almost instinctively, and he just misses your face. And using that moment, he's opened himself up. You bring your right arm in and just dig right into his ribs. Whack! You feel it hit pretty hard, and he knocks to the side. He speaks to you in a language that seems almost like he's singing to you. You do not understand it. You take a step back. You're a little bit off-put by that. It definitely wasn't Draconic and not what you were expecting from him. You yell to him in Draconic, "Who are you?" And he doesn't seem to respond. He just kind of smirks. And then he pulls out a jab and he hits you. You weren't expecting it. He just jabbed really quick and smacks you in the face. You stumble back a little further. Let's make another couple checks here. 13 and a 10. You are not yet proficient in unarmed strikes. I mean, technically you are, but for the sake of drama, you're not. You bring in a kick, but because you're not trained in your kicks, he just grabs it and spins your foot around, and you almost feel something crack in your leg, and you go down. Wham! This time he doesn't leave it as you're down. He comes in and wham! Slams you in the chest with a kick. It almost knocks the wind out of you. But you manage to bring your arms up against further kicks. He doesn't do anything further, though. He just steps back. He waits for you to again stand to your feet, and then he comes in for another attack. As he comes in for another attack, you shout, "Are you Panros?" And I'll have an insight check from you. Ooh, 18 plus stuff. That definitely will be enough with an insight. That you kind of notice this kind of cocked brow almost. It's hard to tell with Draconic faces, but you see this sort of cocked brow, a little bit of curiosity in the head, a sort of side smirk. It stops him for like a brief moment, and then he keeps coming, and he's going to bring in another left jab for you. He managed to block it, but you feel the power as it blocks against your arm. It almost feels like it's almost broken one of your forearm bones. You reach out instinctively, try and grab him. Let's see how this goes. 9 and a 2. Ugh, not very good at all. You are getting a beating and you're starting to feel it. You're not bleeding, you're not bruising, but it's still feeling like you're getting it. You try and grab him. Instead, he reverses it. He knocks your hands to the side, brings his hands around and grabs you with his Draconic claws around the upper arms, and then he brings in his head, wham, and he slams his Draconic scales into your face. You are just almost knocked out entirely. Your legs go limp and your knees hit the ground. Is there a baby? Yeah, there's a baby in the ring as well. There's a baby downstairs. We've got friends visiting. Your knees go weak. You go to the ground, and now that you're at sort of hip level, he brings his knee up and just crack right under the chin, and you fall down. And as your body hits the ground, you wake up. It's the middle of the night. What do you want to do? Guessing we didn't have the chance to check for that copper. No, not in the middle of getting your ass handed to you. Go back to sleep for round 2. You grumble about the gods and their poor communication skills. I wonder if anyone's at the ring right now. You could get up in the middle of the night, go into town and see if anybody's at that ring. But that is the danger of being in Fondurg after dark. Get a drink of water to calm ourselves, go back to sleep. Alright, so you get a drink of water. Oh, bone dice. This might be a good idea, Kelso. What would you ask the bone dice? Drink water, go back to sleep, fight him again. Should we pray, giving thanks for the opportunity to learn? Could do. Do we feel rested? You don't feel like you've been beaten the shit out of. You feel like you're rested. Like you feel like you're not fully rested because it's the middle of the night. Dear bone dice, what the fuck was that? If we go to Fondurg, we can leave most of our stuff here. Yeah, could do. Who's in favour of going into Fondurg to check the fighting ring right now? Middle of the night. Yes. No. Is the Dragonborn fighter a god? That's what you want to ask the bone dice? Possible. All right. No. People. I want to see the ring, but no. Overwhelming no. Overwhelming no. Apis does not feel like getting up, walking all the way into Fonderg, potentially risking getting mugged and things, and then everything else. All right. So ask the bone dice something. Yes or no? In the chat, yes or no? Ask the bone dice. Was that Panros? Is Panros trying to tell me something? Whatever you want to ask. Yes or no? Ask the bone dice something. You haven't asked them anything today, so you're guaranteed a truthful answer. Whether you can interpret it's another question. Check your body for marks. You check your body. There's no marks on your body. Nothing except for what you'd already had from the previous night of busted up fingers and things from pummeling the tree. All right. It seems like yes, we are going to ask the bone dice something. What are we going to ask the bone dice? Something to do with Panros. Something to do with the Merry Gentleman. What are we going to ask the dice? Is the Dragonborn fighter in my dream Panros? Is the green Dragonborn in my dreams Panros? How specific can we get? You can be as specific as you want. You are more likely to get an interpretable answer if it's a yes-no question. Because all the dice can tell you are visions of good things and bad things. Is the entity answering a fae? In the dream we just had, does the Dragonborn represent the god Panros? All right, there's a bunch of people saying about, hello Panros, it's me. Hello, are you there, God? It's me, Margaret, right? Hey, hello Panros, it's me, Apis. Okay, yeah, people are saying a lot of the same things, like the dream, is it Panros? You take out your bone dice, you drop them as they bounce. You get visions of. Let's see. You get the taste of your birthday cake from the previous couple of days that you finally finished, which was a delicious honey taste. You get visions of the wake, seeing Mel having such a good time, drinking and getting drunk and things. You get the sound of laughter and music being played. It is, as each dice hits and bounces, you are given a different vision, a different sight, a different sense, and they are definitely. You hear a puppy yapping in a fun way. You are definitely given a sense of wheel from the bone dice. It seems from that you can interpret it how you like, but. It seems you get a sense of wheel from the visions of asking is the Dragonborn in our dreams Panros? Alright. You go back to sleep? Yes or no? Does everyone get visited by gods on leveling up, or are we cursed or special? You'll have to find out, won't you? Are we getting the attention of a lot of... We are getting the attention of a lot of gods, yes. Seems like it. So was it yeses to going back to sleep? Yes. It was mostly yeses going back to sleep. This part of Apis' mind gonna go piss. Apis gets up out of bed after rolling the dice, goes out into the forest, finds a bush, does their business, goes back to sleep, gets the water skin, and then tries to get back to sleep. You got a lot racing through your mind, so it takes you a little bit of a while, but as soon as you are back to sleep, you are awoken almost immediately by the sensation of being grabbed from behind by the hair, yanked backwards, and then an elbow coming round from above and smacking you right in the throat. It's a hell of a way to be woken, whack! But you are on your back immediately. You see this creature standing above you again, and this time your mind is going back to having slightly harder time of equating what this creature is. It's just like this humanoid bipedal two-limbed figure that is just beating on you. But as you start to stand to your feet, the sort of shadowed feet coalesce into that of the Dragonborn again, and the Dragonborn foot comes up towards your face. Let's see if you can block it. 18, yes, you managed to wham! Your arms come across, and as they cross over to grab the foot, you notice that you've almost, maybe the audience notices and Apis doesn't really, wham! That you've kind of blocked the kick by using your hands like so, wham! You manage to get yourself up to your feet and then make some counter attacks. 13 and a 9. Not bad, not bad. You're getting closer. It's only add 1 because of your strength. You're not adding your proficiency, really. You smack. You stop the thing. You get to your feet. You use kind of the momentum of him kicking you to push you up onto your feet a little. And then he comes at you again. You use your height to your advantage this time. As he comes swinging, you drop low. You go in with your right shoulder and smack him right in the solar plexus, lifting him up off his feet. And then you go down, continue that momentum, and slam him down to his back. You are on top of him. Dang, fighters really earn their levels in this world. Or maybe you do. Can we disengage and escape? Can we Misty Step? Absolutely, yes. So you're on top of him. Wham! He brings his claws in and digs them into your back and just kind of like holds you there. You feel them dig in. And then as he's kind of grappling, he's trying to throw you over and get on top. But as he does so, you kind of like glimpse upwards that there's a dark figure in the corner of the room, a figure in a white porcelain mask, and he's just kind of holding that mask on his face. This is a figure you've seen once before, and you realise that this creature has given you powers that you can use. You suddenly Misty Step. You pass without a trace. You suddenly become a lot darker, shadowed, stealthier creature. You disappear out of his grasp and into the back corner of the ring. And as this Panros seemingly stands to his feet in the back of the ring, he doesn't seemingly know where you are immediately, not at first anyway. So you rush in from behind. You lift up your leg and you Spartan kick him in the back of the knee. Boom! His knee goes down really hard. If he was not in a ring, it probably would have cracked his kneecap on the concrete. He goes down hard and his body starts to twist, so you use that momentum, grab him around the throat, and you've got him in a chokehold. You use your body weight to just drop to the ground, and being that you're short but stocky as a dwarf, you've got quite a bit of weight behind you. You pull him down, and now you are on top of him, and he is on the ground with his face down on the mat. And suddenly he stops fighting. He stops struggling. There is this... There's this kind of throat singing like quality to coming out of his voice. He shouldn't be able to breathe from how tightly you've got him in a chokehold. But before you even know what's happening, you are outside of the ring. You're still in this studio, in this gym as it were, but you're outside of the ring and you're standing opposite him. No other figures in the room with you that you can see. He cocks his head again. And then kind of smiles his draconic-like smile. He's definitely speaking to you. He's saying things. He's saying words that you don't understand, but they're coming across in this angelic kind of way. This sing-song, rhythmic, definitely harmony to the voice that he's saying, but you don't understand a word of it. It's beautiful. You bow in respect. He brings up his claws and does this figure with it, and then bows in respect to you as well. You at this point finally, New York GM. At this point, you're finally out of being actively fought. You glance across to where the corners of the ring are, and you can see that there are no copper pieces on the corners of the ring. Could you say in? Could you repeat that in Dwarven, Draconic, or Sylvan, please? And as you say this, he just kind of like smiles a little bit. Bows his head again, and then you are back in your bed, being awoken by the sound of frying food, as Briar has gone out early this morning and found some eggs and is frying them up for breakfast. Starting your last day of level up. I think this is level day 6, is it? You did a day pretty much resting and eating cake, punching trees, training with Joey. Yesterday with the beetle. This is day 5. I think this is day 5 actually. Day 5, what do you want to do? Do you want to train your second wind? Do you want to train your punching? Do you want to go train with Joey? Would a druid steal eggs? Druids got to survive. You got to understand. Druids are happy with the understanding of kill or be killed. The food chain, not taking more than you need, but taking what you need. Hey Briar, guess who just choked out a god in a celestial show fight? you start bragging to Briar about it, and she's like,
So you've been given a beetle by an archfey in the Feywild, and you've been visited by gods in your dreams, and you just choked one out. I think I'm happy that we're friends, Apis, and that we're not enemies, because I don't think I'd like to be on your wrong side. You see, yeah, well, I don't know why they're interested in me, but it seems that they are. Alright, so you run to the gym, cardio workout, and then punching training. Alright, ring with Joey again, see if our style has improved. You head off to Joey this morning. Let's see if Joey is available to fight today. He has got a job after all. He is a Knight of Kavosna, specifically a Gate Knight. Oh, good. I give it a 30% chance, and I got a 30 and a 0. So exactly. So you get there just as he's got time to have a break. He's got like a long lunch today, and it can take like an hour or two to go to the ring and train with you. He says, "It's been a while since I've done this much training. Actually, I kind of gave up on boxing a little while ago, but it's quite fun to be getting back into it again. You're getting better," he says, as you whack. This is a remarkable improvement from the other day. Have you been training all of yesterday? You say, no. Is the copper still on the post? Let me see. Has anybody been in and trained today and seen a copper on the post? The copper is not on the post, but looking around you can see that it is just outside of the ring on the floor. So it seems like it might have been shaken off of the post at some point. It wasn't taken by anyone, but it was on the floor. Hey Joey, guess you just choked out a god in a Celestial Show match. just using it against everyone, just bragging to everybody. I just choked out a god, everybody. You say, no, I wasn't training in the ring, but I was training in my sleep. And you tell him a little bit about what's been happening for you, and he's suitably impressed and a little bit thrown as you manage to land a couple of hits on him. He says, all right, let's show me what you got then, eh? Let's train for real. He puts his pads down to the side and he says, "Let's do this," and starts a boxing match with him with you. He's not nearly as brutal or no holds barred as Panros seemingly was, and also you do genuinely bruise and bleed when you're hit in the real world. But you train with him for a bit. You use your second wind. You feel like you reach a wall where you just can't go anymore. And he says, "I'm not going to let up. You've got to keep going. You've got to dig deep. You've got to find that extra energy to keep fighting when you need to. You're in the weeds, Apis. I'm a big dragon. I'm coming for you. You got to fight back." And he comes right at you, and you almost got no. But you dig down deep and you bring up with an uppercut. It completely misses him because you're just kind of tired. But he knocks you to the side and he says, "That's it. Keep fighting." And he keeps training you. You go for a kick at one point though, but you just don't have the technique. He easily sees it coming. He grabs you by the leg and he spins it and knocks you to the ground and says, "Oh, we need to work on your legs, it seems." "That's enough. All right. I got to get back to work," but doesn't check his watch. Checks the grandfather clock. Says, "It's enough. Yeah, so you better get back to work, but keep working on your technique. You need to start working on your legs as well. Let me give you a couple of pointers that you can be working on while I go." And he takes you over to the punching bag and he says, "Square up, hips, legs to the side." And I don't know enough about it, but he gives you some like kickboxing kind of technique so that you can be working on. And then he sort of like he does this to you as he's leaving. He kind of like bows, gives you a symbol, and. Can we hug him after as a thank you? I'm not sure Apis is much of a hugger in the past anyway, and you're both very sweaty. So I think he just bows you, gives you this symbol, and then leaves. You also return the favour. You bow, you give him the hands, and then you keep working for the rest of the day. You spend on kickboxing. You're trying to train up your unarmed striking, which is not just your hands and elbows, but also headbutts, knees, grapple checks, all of that stuff. This evening, as you go to sleep, you are kind of expecting, as you're lying down to sleep, you're expecting to be found in a ring, fighting, but there is no such ring. You find yourself in like a spring in a clearing in a forest. A glade might be a good word for it. Yes, a glade with a still pond in the centre of this glade, kind of like an oasis in a forest, if that makes sense.
spring, let's say. Directly opposite this spring, on a sort of overhanging it, almost willow-like, but without the willow-like drooping branches, just this sort of outwards leaning tree branch, is this large, almost oak-like shaped tree, but it is vined up. There are vines all the way up the trunk of it, and each of the vines is growing a berry. Let's make a Arcana or Medicine check, your choice. I think Arcana would be better for you because you're not proficient in either. So Arcana would be a +3. 18. 15 plus 3, 18. You recognize these berries as good berries, growing on this tree opposite. Now I'll have you make a religion check, actually. Religion, you've not been rolling too badly today. That's an 11. 11 plus your 3 from religion. That's 14 for religion. You recognize this as one of the symbols of Flonanshale, the goddess of healing. Her primary symbol that people often use is a humanoid woman-looking thing that her arms are outstretched. Her upper torso is almost turned into a tree. All across sort of the torso and upper arms is very bark-like and branchy. Surrounding her arms and head is the canopy of a tree, all of the leaves, and her torso is wrapped in vines with good berries growing on them. You see that this tree hanging over doesn't have the body of a woman, but it is very clearly, evidentially, a symbol to Flonanshale. There's no god comes out, no one comes to talk to you, no fairies flitter around. It is just calm, it is still, the pool is quiet. You sort of stand here waiting for something to interact with you, some kind of god to sneak up on you, or some kind of merry gentleman to give you some kind of indication that he's with you. But you just eventually realize that this is all it is. You sit and you just be. You just exist, and you listen to the sounds of the forest in the distance. You listen to the birds chirping around. You sit and relax, and you pray to Flonanshale. You do your best to just give thanks to Flonanshale for the cure wounds that she gives you, the abilities that she grants you. You feel a second wind come over you. You feel like tapping into this pool of energy, this pool of resource, this sanctity that you have here, this otherworldly sanctuary, will give you a moment of respite in an otherwise chaotic time. You feel like in the moment, no matter how dangerous and destructive and chaotic and adrenaline fueled your actions may be, no matter how life-threatening, you might be able to tap into the memory of this place and find within yourself the wind to carry on, the fuel that you need to go another round. You meditate. There's no response from Flonanshale. There's no activity at all. You just sit. Time is meaningless here, but it feels like hours. But you don't feel bored. You just feel content, quiet, rested. And eventually you wake. You feel like you have access to second wind now. I believe this is your final day of training. And finally you put it all together. You go out into the forest, you hunt with your bow and arrows, you train your unarmed striking, you decide to try and see if you can take an animal down alive with your grappling. Now that you've focused on your punching, your kicking, your striking, you now put a little time on this last day into grappling. As an unarmed fighting style fighter, you have the ability to grapple a hold of somebody and cause them damage at the start of every round. So you focus on that. You find an animal, let's say some kind of wild animal of the forest in Great Britain. My go-to is always a boar, but I don't want to get boring with that. Boring. You find an animal, a beast of some kind, and you manage to, without your weapons, you manage to jump out of the way of, like a black bear. Yeah, black bears I think used to be native to the UK, didn't they? Before we hunted them all out. You find a black bear and you approach it, and you manage to duck to the side, grab it onto the top. You manage to get on behind, grappling onto it. You feel confident in your abilities to handle yourself in a fight should the need arise in the future. Once you've sort of subdued this black bear and it's given up the fight, realizing it can't scratch you off of its own back, you kind of climb off and push it away, and it scampers up and runs off into the forest. You feel like you're being watched, and you feel like there's sort of an approval, like it's not a you're being watched by someone who's going to mug you kind of feeling. It's a you're being watched by a proud parent kind of feeling. You have another day for the dice, yeah, if you wanted to ask the dice something, Pockfin. Is the Merry Gentleman or Shadridge in trouble? As a way for transitioning into another story arc. Do we want to ask the dice anything on this last day or not? This is the last day of your training. You've put everything together. You're finding like you are proficient in fighting, unarmed when needed. You know that you can channel your planar warrior into your unarmed strikes when needed. Ask the beetle about lower planes. You ask the beetle, are there any show me the way to the nearest portal to the lower planes of existence. It understands you. It crawls from your hand out onto your fingers and then back in again and out onto each finger in turn. It starts crawling your way up your arm and nothing. Eventually it just comes back to the center of your hand and just starts circling, and eventually sort of circles its way into the center of your palm and stops and looks up at you. On this last day, you get a weir portal to the lower plane? No, you probably interpret it as there is no portal to the lower planes within 6 miles of you. You spend the rest of the day just finalising your training and things, talking with Briar about her plans, and then you tell Briar that you intend to at some point be back in Fondurg, but for now you probably have things to be doing up north. You've got a cloak to pick up from the Four Sisters. You have to check in on Shadridge, see that everything's okay there. And you prepare. You have one last final night with Briar. She cooks for you as it's your final night in staying with her anyway. I mean, that's up to you really. If you want to continue staying in Fondurg, you can. But I know that enough of you want to go to Shadridge that that's probably the direction you're heading next. And as you level up, you become the next morning. Where is it? Apis' character sheet. Level 6. You now have unarmed fighting down in the features section. You now have, let's level everything up here. Your health becomes, what was it? I know I said I'd forget it if I didn't. It was 60. It wasn't a nice number, was it? How much health have we got now? 62. Our max HP is now 62. There you go, our max HP is 62. We have all of our hit dice back, of which we now have 6. We have 6 maximum hit dice now. Our level is now a 6. We're a level 6 character. There we go, look. Our armor class is still 15. That doesn't change on level up. None of those things changed. You can see the age has changed to 54. Anything else? Alignment is still chaotic good. I think that's everything, isn't it? Boom, we've got a new character sheet. Look at that. Woo! And also, check this out. I haven't worked out where I'm going to put it yet because this screen is getting rather messy. But we also have fighter buttons. Let me show you what they look like. Fighter buttons. Let me bring them to the top and grow it large for you. So we don't yet have Action Surge, but I asked Spidey to make Action Surge just on the off chance that we ever take a second level in Fighter. I imagine we probably will at some point. So I've got them in the meantime, but until we do take a second level, that will remain grey. But when we get it, they can go like that. And then, when you use them, there you go, look. So when you've got your second wind, you've got it, and when you've used it, you've used it. Isn't that cool? How cool is that? Shout out to Spidey NZ, who is a good friend of mine and an animator, and has made everything you see on the screen. All of this stuff is made by Spidey. All of these things beneath me. All of my emotes in the chat. Spidey NZ. Shout out to Spidey for all of that, and thank you for this new fighter button. So I'm not sure where I'm going to put it on the screen. As I say, it's quite a busy screen at the moment. I might put it down here and change up this storytelling note. Remove that a little bit, maybe something like that. We'll find a way. We'll find a way. Life finds a way. All right. So as you level up, you finish your sixth night. You meal with Briar. You go into you go to sleep. There's no major dreams this last night. And as you wake up, that's where we're going to begin next time. I'm not going to end on a cliffhanger for once. You guys can choose what to do between. Mel will have leveled up as well. Mel, as your companion, will level up whenever you do. But obviously, to work out what Mel's situation is, you need to talk with her next time, and she'll tell you what happened for her during level up. All right, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you very much for joining us, guys. I will see you next time. Bye. Do you like social media? Of course you don't. But you use it a lot anyway, don't you? Because it's addictive. Check me out on Twitter and Instagram at RobertHartleyGM.